The views and opinions expressed here on Wrestling Winedown are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company. What's up, guys? It's Lo, and you are tuned in to Wrestling Winedown, a female-founded and hosted podcast dedicated to professional wrestling and our favorite adult beverage. We are back with another episode of Chardonnay and Chisme, your wrestling girl talk. As always, I am joined by Iridian of the Rest Friends podcast, as well as Fightful to spill the wine on all things pro wrestling. We are spilling the serious wine to kick off this episode. We are talking about the latest on Wrestlecon. There has been a lot of updates in regards to the Wrestlecon situation, and we are sounding off on the situation as former attendees of Wrestlecon, and we are also giving our thoughts on what we think other wrestling conventions can do moving forward to provide a safe and comfortable experience for all. It's rumored that AEW is set to return to Chicago, Illinois during the Thanksgiving holiday season, and many people are wondering, how many shows is Chicago going to get in 1 year? Of course, I had to ask our fellow Chicagoan her thoughts on the amount of wrestling shows happening in the Windy City. Bianca, Belair, and Montez recently stated in an interview that they would absolutely love to work in the ring together, which leads us to ask, who are some of the best WWE couples to work inside of the ring together? We're giving ours, but we would love to hear your feedback at WWDCAST on Twitter. And finally, we are giving well-deserved flowers to Trinity, who recently picked up her first ever Knockouts Impact Championship at Slammiversary. So grab your favorite glass of bubbly. We're going in for the 3 count. We are back with another episode of Chardonnay and Chisme. I'm here with Iridian as always. How are you, Miss Ma'am?
I'm doing fantastic, Lo. How are you?
I'm ready. I'm ready to spill the wine. I don't have any wine this time. I'm staying hydrated because it is very hot in Las Vegas. So water for me.
Same. Cheers. In my WrestleMania cup, don't look at the cup because it's on its last leg, okay?
Is that from 7-Eleven?
This is from Mania when we went.
Oh, okay. I say that because 7-Eleven used to do this little series of cups for WWE. And I remember, I might still have them. I had a couple where it had like Kelly on it. Oh. Yes, girl. And they were that size and they looked just like that. Throwing it back. If you guys have 7-Eleven cups at your house, let me know. Let me know that I'm not alone in this world.
Send the pics of the cup.
Send the pics. Yep. We're actually going to start with something serious, something that has been on my mind. So, WrestleCon. They f***ed up. WrestleCon, a lot of people know, is a convention that usually happens around WrestleMania. Bigger wrestling events, WrestleCon will be there. So there was an incident in Los Angeles during WrestleMania weekend with WWE Hall of Famer Rick Steiner and Impact knockout Giselle Shaw. Giselle Shaw is openly transgender, very proud as she should be. And Rick Steiner was acting like a idiot at the event, saying transphobic things, acting a fool. Giselle Shaw asked him, "Excuse me," and he continued with the transphobic comments. Once the statement came out from Giselle, everyone was like, why was he not thrown out immediately? What is going on? WrestleCon, can you explain it? Everyone was puzzled, right? Because when you go to these conventions, when you go to any type of wrestling event, you expect everyone to be accepted. And to be a wrestler yourself in an environment like this and having another wrestler who is older than you saying this type of stuff is absolutely insane to me. Giselle put out the comment, from what we knew, Rick Steiner had never apologized to her, anything like that. After the fact, WrestleCon had stated that they were banning Rick Steiner from all of the rest of their conventions, and everyone was happy with that, as they should be. You should not allow that in your space. Your guests should be comfortable. Your wrestlers that you have attending the convention should be comfortable, point blank, period. I didn't really think anything more of this. I don't think a lot of people really thought anything more of this because we saw that WrestleCon resolved it in their way. Maybe a week ago, WrestleCon announces that the Steiner brothers are going to be at Detroit at SummerSlam. And everyone was like, wait, what? Didn't you announce that this man was not allowed back at your convention? So they post this announcement and then they post this long tweet about why they're allowing him back. They're stating that they had some type of like intervention type of thing where they had people come and he apologized to them, but Giselle Shaw did not attend. So therefore, he has not apologized to Giselle Shaw. Honestly, I'm not even going to tell you that I know every single word that was in that statement, because once I saw that they tried to justify him being there, I said, I'm not reading all of this. And I read through the comments. I even commented myself. I just felt like this was so irresponsible. It was so tacky. It was tasteless. It was just a show. Obviously, they got a lot of backlash. Monday comes. So I want to say the statement was maybe put out on Friday. It was definitely early in the weekend. So Monday comes, and the people behind Wrestlecon announced that Rick Steiner is no longer going to attend. They released a statement. They say that he's no longer going to be at the convention. They say they had a thoughtful dialogue with Brian Bell from SB Nation's Outsports, and they agreed that Steiner needed to make some type of public acknowledgement or apology, and he failed to do so within the 24-hour deadline. That's when they made the decision to pull him from the event. Additionally, Wrestlecon stated that they have created the first draft of their code of conduct and anti-harassment policy, which will be posted on their website, and they will continue to work on it with the goal to create a safe and enjoyable space for everybody at the conventions. There were some people that were like, thank you, glad that you rectified the situation. Other people were like, would you have made this change if everybody wasn't on your ass? Could you not handle the heat, so now you're stepping out of the kitchen, or what's going on? What is your take on this before I decide to spill my wine on it?
I definitely think that, at the end, they were like, oh, Wrestlecon. They removed him. They literally said, oh, we didn't think we were going to get this type of feedback. And that's the only reason that they removed him, because they thought that, hey, well, he apologized, but, Giselle wasn't there. So, I mean, apology is still an apology, which it's not, because that's literally just apologizing to thin air. The fact that they banned him and then unbanned him and removed him again, that's just so wishy-washy on their part. And the fact that they don't have a code of conduct for their vendors, it doesn't make any sense, because you're literally a convention. There's a lot of conventions that we go to, and the vendors have their specific guidelines that they have to follow. And even just being a good person, even if he's a terrible person that he is, he didn't have to say anything. He went out of his way to purposely make her uncomfortable. And that is just a line that you don't cross. So the fact that they were still allowing him, that's so shady.
It's definitely shady, and I feel like there's a lot of questions here, right? Again, it took you from Friday to Monday to realize, oh, we should probably pull him. You had a conversation with one person, and then you decided, okay, we should probably pull him. The way they phrased it made it seem like we really didn't pay attention to the backlash that we got on social media. It was actually that conversation that we had Monday that made us decide that we wanted to pull him.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Wrestlecon works in regards to, who runs it, if there's only one person, if there's multiple people, whatever. At the end of the day, there has to be a team running WrestleCon. There's not just one guy, the guy that signed the statement, who's running the entire thing. It takes a team. So no one on that team at any point was like, hold up, wait a minute. What the are you doing? And have you thought through it completely? And I was having a conversation with somebody else, and they had mentioned that the typical wrestling fan probably forgot about this. Mm-hmm. Like your stereotypical white male wrestling fan probably forgot about this because it has nothing to do with them. And then I saw some people on Twitter who were like, well, I'm not going to this table anyway, but I'm still going to go to WrestleCon. You are still putting money in WrestleCon's pocket. You might think, oh, I'm beating the system. No, you look like Boo Boo the fool. Because at the end of the day, you're still giving your $35, $40 to walk through the door. You're still a convention goer. You are still a patron at WrestleCon. So the fact that you're over here like, well, I still want to meet the Hardys. Okay, so you have to go to WrestleCon to do that? You are still supporting them. And I realized that, okay, they pulled him. But it's the fact that they did it in the first place and thought that no one was going to say anything that makes me never want to attend a WrestleCon again.
And this was after banning him initially. So it's like they backtracked on their own decision in the first place.
For what?
Which is like, exactly. For
Is Rick Steiner really making it rain money like that at WrestleCon to the point where they have to forget their morals, put aside their own word that they said in April, completely forget about it for August, is Rick Steiner really bringing everybody out like that? I don't think so. If anything, it's Scott Steiner. Okay, holla if you hear me.
Exactly. And I feel like, over the past few WrestleCons, there's been other issues as well with the way
Girl,
that they run, with their unorganization, with some of the things that they have, not organized on social media. I don't know who's on their team, but I feel like they definitely need to be more organized, because the past ones have not, we don't have good stories about them. We
we've
don't.
talked about it here before. We went to the one in January in Dallas. It was a smaller scale event. They had it at a hotel that was in a mall, which I know probably sounds a little bit weird, but if you
And it
live in
was
Vegas, it's not.
free.
But it was free. You obviously had to pay to meet the wrestlers, but it was free to get in. And they reached capacity and did not tell anyone until later on in the afternoon, maybe early afternoon. So you had people standing outside the doors waiting to get in, and they were not allowed entry because they were filled to capacity. And I felt like the event was poorly put together. The communication was poor. I mean, what are you doing? You continually keep letting your patrons down. Now, you did that in January, you did this in April, now you did this in August. How do you expect a wrestling fan who has morals to still want to go to your event? Anybody with morals would be like, if they aren't willing to protect and stand by talent that has been on or at their convention, how do we expect as fans that they'll protect us in their environment, right? You still expect to go to a convention and feel comfortable and feel like you belong. And I feel like they've completely up. As a PR person, I can't even tell them what to do next because y'all just have up. I don't know. Just you can't even take it back from scratch now. I would just throw in the towel. Thank you.
I completely agree with you on the fact that they're not even willing to fully stand behind protecting their talent. So what makes you feel comfortable as an attendee of the event? What if something happens to you? Are you going to be protected? Are they going to stand behind you? Probably not. And when we attend these, or when we've attended these WrestleCon events, we are in the minority, not only as women, but of women of color. And it's, there's literally, what is it? Maybe one woman to every
5,000 men.
30, 40 men. Like, it's literally insane.
Like we could probably count on one hand how many women we saw that were not talent at the WrestleCon that we went to in Texas for WrestleMania. To put it into perspective.
And again, the unorganization, like Trish Stratus was supposed to be there and she didn't show up, and they didn't let anybody know. So people were standing in line for Trish, but then they weren't letting anybody in. They didn't tell anybody. We were finding out from people who were walking past us after leaving, after being denied. This is just a lot of things within that organization that I feel they need to really take responsibility for what they're doing. And I feel like it's like very scrambled. There's multiple people saying this and doing that, and it's just not good. They need to do better.
With that being said, what can other wrestling conventions do moving forward? The first and foremost, do not book Rick Steiner. That's the first thing. But in your opinion, what do you feel like other wrestling conventions can learn from this? What do you think they would need to implement in order for everybody to feel safe and like they belong at their convention?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, they mentioned that they didn't have like a policy set. Um, uh, any convention would. A lot of the conventions that we go to have pages and pages of manuals of how, what the policy is, of what you should do, just even helping the vendors out and stuff, but of how you should behave and, how you should be interacting with people. That is such a big thing. I think that there should be rules in place for if you're going to go and sell things, sell yourself, the image of like, autographs and pictures, whatever. There needs to be rules. And if the rules are not followed, hey, sorry, you can't come back here. You signed this contract. This is not how it's going to work. But you also need to be more transparent with what's happening in real time. now that social media is very accessible to everyone, there's no reason why you can't go online and tweet something, or you can't go on Facebook and say something. And there should be in the moment real time of like, hey, this just happened. We're so sorry, but we're addressing it. Thanks so much. We appreciate you guys being patient. And I don't know, people need PR people. Like they need communications training, they need media training. That's what they can go invest in going forward to be smarter with how they run their festivals and just be more inviting to the women. It's I don't understand. And even like some wrestling shows that we go to are not that inviting. They're not in the most well-lit places. They are not in the best smelling places, in the best, areas in general. So being mindful of where you're going to have your event is also very important. But what do you think?
You mentioned a code of conduct for the vendors, but I also think there needs to be a code of conduct for fans. And I'm not sure if that's something that Wrestlecon has already or other wrestling conventions, but I definitely feel like that also needs to play a part here. I think, when we attend these events and stuff like that, it's great to have fun. It's great to have a good time, but you also need to have a code of conduct in case someone gets drunk or someone does something crazy. You need to protect yourself, and you also need to protect the fans. And I think a code of conduct should be on the ticket website when you buy a ticket. I think that people need to really think about how they act before they leave the house. There's no reason to act out. I hope other conventions do better. I love going to wrestling conventions. They're a good time, but honestly, I probably will not support WrestleCon again. And I mean that. I feel like, honestly, once they were disorganized in January, I was pretty done, but this was the icing on the cake for them. Let's move on to something that will make you happy. AEW is going back to Chicago, and not for All Out. We know that they're going for All Out, but they're coming back reportedly for their Thanksgiving show, and a lot of people are really irritated. They're like, why did Chicago get everything? What's going on? Iridian.
You know who's not irritated? Me, because I'm going to be there. And everyone else can keep hating. I don't feel bad. People think that Chicago gets a lot of shows. Sure, we do. But guess what? Tony Khan's family literally lives here. So that man has come out every single holiday time. He's coming back for Thanksgiving. And every single show after, we've gone for that specific show during that week, he said, I'm going to keep coming back to Chicago for Thanksgiving because why? He's spending time with his family. He's the owner of the company. If his family lives here, of course, if he loves spending time with his family, it only makes sense that Chicago is going to get the shows. So everyone else can keep hating. If I lived in Indiana, I would still drive out here to Chicago to watch an AEW show. Labor Day weekend, again, that's when the big pay-per-view is. It's a holiday. Tony Khan, of course, he's like, oh, you know what? Hoffman Estates, that's where I kind of grew up. Let me go run the pay-per-views over there. I'll be closer to my parents, closer to my family. It just makes sense. For the people who keep complaining, it just hasn't clicked yet that Tony's family literally lives here. And that's why he keeps having the pay-per-views. If you want to complain, go tell it to Tony's face directly in front of his dad. To be like, hey, Tony, you're running way too many pay-per-views here. And I'm sure Tony Khan is going to laugh in your face and be like, bro, I literally live here. I literally live here. So I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. And also people I hear all the time complain of like, oh, well, they need to move Double or Nothing out of Vegas. That makes no sense at all. No sense whatsoever. The literal name is Double or Nothing. Where do you gamble? Vegas. That's it. That's it. That's all I got.
Well, Chicago is a wrestling city. It seems like a lot of people that AEW sells very well in Chicago. If you go in that All Out pre-sale or the general sale, you will see they sell very well. If they do not sell out, they get very close to it. And I'm sure that's appeasing to a business owner. That's an easy payday for them. They could fill up the arena. They could fill up the hall, wherever they're at. You know what I mean? And again, Tony Khan does have family that live there. It makes sense. But people want to see live wrestling, but they want it in their hometown or where they currently reside at. I get it. I won't say that AEW doesn't have a lot of pay-per-views or events in Chicago. It happens. Again, it's a wrestling city. What I am interested in is how Collision will work that weekend because we know Survivor Series is in Chicago that same exact weekend. So that's a lot of wrestling. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if they're maybe going to film Collision in Hoffman Estates instead of filming it in actual Chicago, or how exactly they're going to do that, because I believe WWE is at the Allstate Arena.
Yeah.
So they can't film there. Where you going, Tony?
Yeah, I believe they might still just do the Now Arena, or they might just stick to United Center, because WWE doesn't really do United Center. They kind of do Rosemont or something else. But
But head to head with Survivor Series, one of their big
that
fours.
they won't do it. I think that they'll pre-tape Collision probably like a Friday and do that with Rampage. And they'll probably do Rampage live. I think Tony's going to have to be really smart with it, because I am going to be at Survivor Series because we're having our best friend Mario. He's going to be in town that weekend. So we shall see how that weekend goes. But I'm not complaining.
Let's move on to some couples. So Bianca Belair and Montez Ford recently had an interview talking about teaming together inside a WWE ring. I absolutely love these two. They are so unproblematic, and they're just money. They mentioned that teaming up in the ring is a goal of theirs. They travel together, they work together, they're always together. So it's just being true to themselves to be on screen together in and outside of the ring. We've heard that they are getting a reality show, and I'm really looking forward to that. It should be really interesting to kind of see their dynamic and how they live and stuff like that. But it made me think about the different couples that we've seen in WWE team up and stuff like that. And a lot of these couples are not together anymore. There are some that are still together. So the first one that came to mind for me was Melina and Nitro. I was a huge Eminem fan growing up, getting into wrestling. Obviously, they're not together anymore. Johnny Nitro, or John Hennigan, or Johnny TV, whatever name he's going by this week, is with Taya Valkyrie, who's also in AEW, and Melina's just doing her thing, as she should be. I know this one's a touchy one for you. Nikki Bella and John Cena, we saw them a lot teaming together. Like, they got engaged in a WWE ring. We saw them go back and forth with Miz and Maurice, who is also another couple that has done very well for themselves in the WWE, both together and separately. They have their reality show. They have a production company together. I love seeing Maurice come back every so often. She does it like no other. Maurice, girl, teach me.
She's
rich.
So iconic.
She is.
Man. Teaming up together inside a ring. I absolutely love couples when they do mixed tag matches. I think I'm just here for it. I remember when WWE had their mixed tag, the challenge, and I'm like, oh my God, just throw all the couples in there, which they didn't do. They just did like randomized things. But man, I'm absolutely here for it. Miz and Maurice had a really good run when they had their pay-per-view matches, and I remember crying when John Cena proposed to Nikki in the ring. It was like I was there front row. I am here for the couples, and I think it's something that could probably work in AEW, because there are a lot of couples there. Well, Ty Conti right now is pregnant, but her and Sammy Guevara would have been a really, really great team. Anna Jay and Jungle Boy, also a great team. You got the Bunny and the Blade. Now that Johnny TV, Johnny Elite, and Taya are there, it would also play off really, really well. Man, I'm all for it. And
you forgot Britt and Adam Cole, baby.
Team of all teams. Oh my God. Britt Baker. I'm so sorry. My idol, my everything. Adam Cole, Britt Baker. They deserve the world. But yes, I'm here for it. And I hope that we do get to see it, because when Trinity was with WWE, we were really hoping that we were going to get to see her in the Bloodline, and we never got that, or to see her and Jimmy really do anything. But I mean, if they can capitalize on that, I think this is such a power couple. And you have another power couple in WWE right now in Becky and Seth. So I would take that and run with it.
Absolutely. Speaking of Trinity, you brought her up. Trinity recently won the Impact Knockouts title. As we know, she is now in Impact. Finally, she's back wrestling. And she did an interview recently where she talked about her departure from WWE. So in the Sports Illustrated interview, Trinity talks about the support from wrestling fans and how it actually gave her the confidence to push forward. So she says, quote, "The support, it's everything. That's what made me continue. The negativity on social media got to me, and I felt so broken down mentally that I didn't want to come back to wrestling, but the fans constantly brought me positivity. Their care gave me that confidence and belief in myself. That's who I'm rocking with, them. Damn, I got a little bit teary-eyed reading
That is
that.
so sad. My eyes are
I love her. I'm just so glad that she's with a company that appreciates her, where she's able to showcase her skill. Trinity has always been one of my favorite women's wrestlers. I remember watching her in NXT when NXT was still like a reality TV type of show thing. It was like the competition, not like it is now. And since then, just her athleticism, her attitude, her spunkiness has just stood out to me. And obviously, being a Black woman, watching wrestling, Black women and representation is few and far between. So she just gravitated towards me. And I know I always bring it up on here, but that moment at the Royal Rumble it gives me goosebumps every single time, truly. And just seeing her reaction to winning the title and her crying, I was crying. And I'm just so happy for her, because so many people talk after her and Mercedes walked out of WWE, and people were assuming what happened. And I saw people saying positive things. I saw people saying negative things. And I can only imagine for her being in that situation, seeing that online, the negative stuff, and how she could feel. And I do remember at one point, I think she did actually delete her account and people were worried. But I've seen so much love for her, so much well-deserved love, because she's inspired people, especially Black women. I feel like we're very fortunate now in a lot of these mainstream companies and even the indies that there are a lot of Black women that are present. Not enough, in my opinion, but there is representation there. And I'm just glad that she's somewhere where she's happy. And I'm glad that she didn't give up on wrestling, because, like I said, she can work. You hear me? Like, I have never seen anyone move like Trinity in the ring. Never.
I can only think about like where her headspace had to be at in order for her to even consider not wrestling anymore. Like that is a passion, and for her to have worked so hard for so many years, and we've seen her not get opportunities, and we kind of went on this journey with them the moment they walked out, right? And we're like, oh man, I just hope that she's happy. I hope that they're both okay. And it's so sad to think about that she was just in that space of like, I don't even want to do this anymore. So I'm absolutely thrilled that she is now in a headspace and in a workplace where she feels like rejuvenated and that she's thriving. I am absolutely here for it. And, we love Trin so much. It's just amazing to see her now accomplishing all of these things that she deserves, because she has worked her ass off for all of these years, and she is now proving all of the haters wrong, because a lot of people were like, well, this is it, she's not coming back to wrestling. Look at her now, she's a champion. So take that, losers. Everyone else can go.
Yep, it's free. It's $0.00 to shut the up, as I always say. And something else that also warms my heart is the relationship that Trinity has with Mercedes, as well as Tamina and Bailey. Being able to see that and them showcasing it really warms my heart. But especially Tamina and Mercedes, like they've had a long history, and Mercedes still being hand in hand with Trinity. They walked out together, and obviously they're doing their two separate things, but seeing that sisterhood with them, it really warms my heart. Because I remember back in the day, girl, when there used to be like little rumors, when I would read the little websites, barely read the dirt sheets, and you find out people are fighting backstage. You're like, does anyone get along? But to see them getting along, and it seems like it's more of like a healthy, from what we know, workplace now in regards to the women that are on the same roster. They're able to get along. They hang out outside of the ring. I love seeing that. And I'm so happy for Trinity, and I can't wait to see what she does next. And I know I keep saying it, but I'm so glad that she did not stop wrestling. I am just really glad that Trinity decided to push forward and eventually sign with Impact Wrestling, because like I've said numerous times, both here and on Twitter and other social media websites, representation is so important in wrestling. And when I started watching, there was not a lot of representation presented in WWE. And I think about a little girl maybe turning on the TV, or even a woman my age or older turning on the TV and being able to see Trinity with her title and her spunkiness and her athleticism, and being inspired to start watching wrestling, be a wrestler, or do a podcast. Like, that representation is so important. And I think just having her in this sport is so necessary. And I'm so glad that she just decided to continue. Finally, Wrestling Winedown merch. We have a lot of merch on the website right now. Currently, we have our exclusive Barbie collection. That one will be in stores for a couple weeks. We will take it off the store on August 4th. We also have our Black Wrestling Queen shirt on the website currently. 35% of the profits from the shirt will go back to Brown Girls Do. We also have our Bad Bitches Love Wrestling shirt, which is back on the website. We have our Spooky Bitches for Julia Hart shirt, as well as our Real Wrestling Fan Shit shirt on the shop. So currently we have 6 items on the website. We still have a lot to come, and this is the only place where you can find these designs. We do not sell the Bad Bitches for Ricky Stark shirt anymore, unfortunately. We do not sell that. We might have some other Bad Bitches for ... shirts coming back, spoiler alert, but you will have to keep an eye out. And the only place you can buy the shirts is shop.wrestlingwinedowlv.com. Thank you so much, Iridian, for joining me on another episode of Chardonnay and Chisme. Where can the people find you on social media? Where can they watch you on Fightful? Where you at, girl?
Well, everyone can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, Iridian_Fiero. And every Saturday after AEW Collision, head over to Fightful's YouTube channel, where you can find me, Rick, and Cresta commentating on everything that just happened. So you can find me there, and also on YouTube at Rest Friends.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wrestling Winedown. You can find all of our other episodes available wherever you listen to your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. We are on Twitter and Instagram at WWDCAST. We also have our official merch store, which you can find at shop.wrestlingwinedownlv.com. Let us know what you thought about this episode. What was your favorite part? Until next time, enjoy your wine and, of course, enjoy your wrestling. Cheers!